we're going to take a look at the Reconcile Summary Status. So if you go to Inventory, the last item on the list there is the Reconcile Summary Status. And if we click on that, it gives us a message here telling us that this feature will reconcile the summary inventory table used on the stock status report. Well, what the heck does that mean? So let's take a quick look at what that means. So basically, the Reconcile Summary Status affects two areas. It affects the stock icon up here or check inventory, or under reports if we go to inventory, the status report. So if we go here to the stock and we pull up a particular part, and what it's affecting is that on-hand column. The on-hand column is the number that the system shows that we have in our inventory. So right now it's showing I have 8 of this part, but I may look at that and go, well, really I only have 7. That number isn't correct. So by doing the reconcile summary status, depending on what's causing that number to show up as 8 instead of 7, it may end up fixing that number for us. The other place, as I said, that we would see that is if we go here under the reports, inventory, status, and I'll just run it for everything. But you could specify that part. And you see here as well, the DW1217 is showing 8 on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and we're just going to go to the Reconcile Summary Status here. And we're going to choose Yes. And you can see that happen really quickly. Now it may take a little bit longer on your system depending on how many parts you have in your inventory, but generally it's only going to take it a short couple of seconds, maybe less than 30 at the most, to do the reconciliation. And now if I run the status report again and take a look at the DW1217, we can see now the on-hand shows 7, which actually matches what I have in stock. Now, is this always going to fix the status report? No, not necessarily. It depends on what's causing that number to be incorrect. It's a little technical to explain it, but basically the status report or the stock icon up at the top works off of just a counter. Every time you do something in inventory for a part, it updates this counter with how many you have of that part. And so sometimes that counter doesn't get updated correctly, and if it doesn't, it's going to throw off the status report, and so the Reconcile Summary Status will fix that. Now, if you run this Reconcile Summary Status and it doesn't fix that, then you probably have something that wasn't entered into the system correctly. Either you didn't receive the part when you should have, or you returned a part and forgot to do a return, or something along those lines. So how do you hunt it down after that? Let's take a quick look. If we go into the reports, inventory, we would want to run the activity report. The activity report is different than the status report. In the activity report shows us each and every transaction that we entered into the system, so we can see if we missed a transaction or put a transaction in more than once. I've seen a number of times where somebody will receive a part in and then later they put the receiver in a second or maybe even third time because somebody else did it and they didn't realize that it was already done or something like that. So this report's going to show us that. So we're going to just go ahead and run it for a particular part because usually it's just a particular part that's off. And for the transaction dates, if it's near the beginning of the month, you may want to go back, say, a month or so and run the report. And in the report, in the top right, you can see our balance forward shows we started out on 10/1 having 4 of this part. And then it shows each transaction from 10/1 through 11/8. And you can see in the type column, it tells us what type of transaction it was. So we've got a couple there. The first few there are physical, meaning a physical inventory was done. Then we've got a receiver. So that's when we received the part into inventory. We have an adjustment where we went in under inventory and adjustments and made an adjustment to our inventory. A few more receivers. Then you see we have an invoice, a few more receivers, another invoice. And at the bottom, our on hand is 7, which now is what is on our status report, because when we do the Reconcile Summary Status, basically it looks at our activity, finds out what our current on hand is, and then it updates the counter that reports the status and makes it the same. And so again, if we've missed a transaction or we've got multiple transactions that are actually should only be one, you'll just need to go in and fix those transactions. Worst case scenario, if everything looks correct but just that number isn't correct, then you'll need to just go in and make an adjustment, and the adjustment then will bring it into the correct count. So to summarize, the Reconcile Summary Status will update the on-hand quantity on the stock status report for any part that doesn't match the actual activity for the part.